What's good, guys? So this is part two for scripting and Obby on Roblox. Let's just go ahead and get into it. What we're going to be doing in this video is uh, setting up game passes. So that's just what I'm going to go over. Now, if you head over to the API, you can see that there's a ton of stuff you can do with Marketplace Service. And what we're going to do is prompt Game Pass purchase. So yeah, that's what we're going to be working with right now is prompt Game Pass purchase. So I'm going to show you how you can set that up for yourselves. Now, you do want to make sure that if this is going to be your game, that you want to save to Roblox, publish it as a game, and then go over to game settings. Oh man. Okay. I'll go through the whole process then. So all right, so now that's what we did. We just saved the game to Roblox, okay? Now we're going to go to game settings, and we're going to go to security. We're going to go to enable studio access to API services. And then what we're going to do is we're going to say allow third-party sales, because I'm just going to snag a Roblox, like a game pass from another game for testing purposes. So I'm going to go to save those settings. All right, so now to the actual coding, and then we'll do the Game Pass thing on Roblox's website last. So what I'm first going to do is create a remote event. Name this something that is like Marketplace Service, Game Pass, or something like that, okay? But what we're going to do is I'm just going to keep it as a remote event. I'm going to set up a script in server script service. Then I'm going to go down to starter player, and I'm going to go to starter character scripts and put a local script in there. All right, so now let me blow this up real quick. Now, you put it in starter character scripts because if you put it in starter player, then if the character dies or character resets, then it may not work. So we're going to have our local script. So this is the local script. Oh, let's set up the GUI real quick. So we're just going to do starter GUI, screen GUI, and we're just going to create a text button. I'm not going to do anything fancy with this. Let's just customize it, and we'll do Game Pass text scaled. Let's change the color to whatever. Okay, so this is our Game Pass text button. Now what we're going to do in this local script is we're going to do local players service equals game get service players. And we're going to do local player equals players service dot local player. And then we're going to do local player GUI equals player dot player GUI. And then we're going to do local button equals player GUI wait for child screen GUI dot text button. We're going to do button dot let's try activated. Activated has not been working for me recently, so I don't know what that's about, but we're just going to try activated first, see if this just works miraculously. I may just not be using it properly, but we'll see. Local function on button activated, and then we're going to have a local game pass ID. We're gonna set it to nil for now, just because we don't have it yet. I'm gonna get it when we're done coding. Activated, and then what we're going to do is we're going to get our remote event. So we're also going to get replicated storage. So local replicated storage equals game get service replicated storage. And then what we're going to do is we need to get our remote event. So local event, or we'll just say remote event equals replicated storage, wait for child, remote event. And then what we're going to do is I just lost train of thought, so that's my bad. We're going to do remote event fire server, and we're going to put the game pass ID in, and then we're going to just connect the function. All right, so now this is the script for the text button that we just put up, okay? So yeah, now we're going to go to our script and server script service, and we're going to say local replicated storage equals game get service replicated storage, local marketplace service equals game get service marketplace service. All right, and now we're going to do local function on event on remote event. I don't know what to call it. I'm just going to put that though. And then we're going to pass in the player, because when you have a remote event and you're firing to the server, it automatically sends the player. You don't send the player as an argument. It automatically happens. So when we put in our game pass ID, so when we do fire server game pass ID, we go over to our event, and it's going to be the game pass ID isn't going to be the first thing that shows up. It's going to be the player automatically, and then our game pass ID. So it's going to be the second argument. All right, so then we're going to do marketplace service dot prompt game pass purchase. I think I need to maybe do that, prompt game pass purchase. The colons, maybe, I don't know, I could be wrong. We're gonna find out. Prompt game pass purchase. Yeah, so prompt game pass purchase, and then we're gonna just do player game pass ID. Okay, and that's it. And then we're gonna do local event, or local remote event equals replicated storage, wait for child, remote event dot on server event connect on remote event. All right, so another thing we're going to do here is we're going to make another function, and we're going to say on game pass purchase finished. And what we're going to do is we automatically get the player, and then we get the game pass ID. All right, so now we're going to say if game pass ID is equal to local game pass ID equals nil, because we're going to get that in a minute. Game pass ID. Then what we're going to do is we can have like a little value, but I'm going to have player data. So I'm going to have and then what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to set up a on player added function real quick. So player service equals game service players. Function on player added player. We're going to do is player data player equals has game pass equals false. Okay, so print player data. Okay, so players service dot player added connect on player added. All right, and now what we're gonna do is if then player data player dot has game class equals true, and we're going to print player data. Okay, so what's happening here, all right, is this is just our data that we're going to be using, okay? And now if you didn't see the last video where I set up actual player data that you can use and save to Roblox, then check that video out. It's part 2. But this is just going to be our player data for now. And so what we're doing is when the player gets added, we're creating them a spot in our player data table, and we're saying has game pass is equal to false because they didn't have the game pass yet. And so then this is our remote event for our game pass text button. So on remote event, so when we go from our local script and we say fire server game pass ID, it goes over to here and it says, marketplace service prompt game pass purchase, and it passes in the player and then the game pass ID. And then on game pass purchase finished. Okay, so what this does is if the player successfully has purchased the game pass, it's then going to say, okay, game pass purchase successful if the game pass ID that it gives us matches the game pass for whatever game pass you want to do. Like it could literally be a coil. Now, if it's good, now let's say if it's a coil, this is another thing I want to bring up. If it's a coil, you're going to want to name this like coil game pass ID. Okay, make it very specific. And yeah, so then if that is the game pass ID, then we're going to say this is equal to true, has game pass. And that's what we're going to do. All right, so let's see. And then we can also actually use another remote event to, fire a, to get rid of our text button, maybe turn our text button into a text label instead, okay? Or just hide our well, for now we can just hide our text button, all right? And we can use the we'll just use the same remote event, but I'm just gonna let you know this is bad practice. Most of the time it's bad practice, and you would want to use another remote event for this, but for now we're just going to use our remote event. So we're going to go remote event fire client, and we're just going to do that. We're just going to fire client. We're going to type in player because we're firing it to the player. So to let the server know which client it's going to go to. And then we can go back here and we can say local function on remote event. And we can say button.visible equals false. Okay, so this is simulating basically like, we owned it and now we're letting it know that the client know that they owned it and stuff. And then we can also, if the say like we did save the data, right? And say we did save the data, we could do a check real quick. So right here we could just do this, and this is probably not the best code at this point because I'm just giving quick examples, but we could do like, once we get our data, and like I said, go to the previous video. Okay, so let's say we got player data from data store service, and player has Game Pass. Okay, so let's say that has happened. Okay, so this is just basically pretend this is code that is getting the data from Roblox's data store, and then the player has the Game Pass. So if has Game Pass, right? So, or we could say if player data player dot has Game Pass, then now if this is equal to false, then this is not going to be a true statement. So this condition is not going to be met. All right, so then we can say remote event fire client player, and then we can and then boom, it's going to be visible equals false. Okay, so that's if they have it and stuff like that. So that's something you could do. It's probably a poor way to do it, but it's going to actually end up being relatively similar to this for the most part. But this was just a quick way to put this in, okay, without having to set up a whole entire situation. All right, so yeah. Now let's get us a Game Pass real quick. I got this one right here just because it was up. I'm going to go to their store. We'll just do the VIP one, I guess. And so we're going to snag this Game Pass ID that's right here. We go back and we're just going to paste it in our constant Game Pass ID variables. All right, so let's test this real quick and see if this works. As you can see, our print statement for our player data came up and has Game Pass equals false. Wait, let me go back actually. Okay, I am printing on purchase finish. Boom. All right, so we clicked our Game Pass button. Would you like to buy VIP? We'll go with yes. VIP purchase finished. Oh no. Oh no, what happened? Oh, maybe I didn't do a connection. Let's test it again. Let me see real quick. On purchase, I didn't do a connection. Okay. So I did not do the connection for the, so we'll do marketplace service dot prompt purchase, Game Pass purchase finished, connect on Game Pass purchase finished. Now let's see. Now let's test it. Okay, so as you can see, we got our player data over here, and it shows up as has Game Pass equal to false. We buy our Game Pass. Purchase of VIP succeed. And then, as you can see, our player data again, and has Game Pass is set to true. But this didn't actually work, so let's test that out. remote event, fire client. Okay, yeah, I didn't connect it on here, so all right. Remote event dot on client event connect on remote event. Okay, and now you will see, should see the whole entire process. We got our player data printed in the console. We just purchased, and there you go, and it disappeared. So now we don't, or you could just make it a thing of owned, and then not make a player be able to click on it, or you could turn it into a checks label. I mean, whatever you want to do that fits for whatever you want to do. But as you can see, has game pass is equal to true. And now if this was a coil type situation, then you would just put the coil. So you would just, like, let's imagine this is code, right? So add coil to player backpack, which let's say that your coil is inside of replicated storage, assuming. So what you would do is you would clone the coil, and then you would parent coil to player backpack. Okay, so that's a very simple process, and then you'll have scripts of saying if a coil equipped player jumps really high. Okay, so that's essentially what you're doing, and then same thing here. If and player has game pass, clone coil. So you might want to do a function, create a function that clones the coil, so you can run it here and then also run it here. So it'll save you more lines of code. So clone coil from replicated storage, parent coil to player backpack. So yeah, that is really how you can use marketplace service for game passes. At least, like I said, there's a ton of stuff you can use it for. I would suggest checking out the API and reading up on the documentation. So yeah, but that's pretty much it for this video, guys. I'll see you later. Peace.